Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Malin Sherwinski. I'm an advocacy manager at the Active Transportation Alliance, and I'm going to be speaking about our suburban advocacy program called Bike Walk Every Town today. In case you're not familiar with us, Active Transportation Alliance is a nonprofit, and our mission is to advocate for walking, biking, and public transit to create healthy, sustainable, and equitable communities. And we're focused in the Chicagoland region. So I'll be digging into this program and providing some campaign examples of local groups within our area. And just for an overview of our commuting trends in the Chicagoland region, 77% of people drive. This is 2018 data. So the car is the dominant mode for getting around. And if you look at that includes Chicago, so if you look at just the suburbs, that percentage is more like 90%. So this is, a trend that we see throughout the state. And this program we developed, we realized that in order to see improvements in walking and biking and creating more multimodal communities, it's important to have strong community support for these types of projects and have the right policies and plans in place. So this program, our suburban advocacy program, it's to introduce different advocacy skills, educational topics, policies, design ideas, and then help create a network of local advocates in our region so that people don't feel alone. And we've seen there's a large desire from many people across communities wanting to see better walking and biking infrastructure, in particular, safer connected spaces. So we wanted to connect people together for peer learning as well, and then also provide one-on-one coaching. So we started this program back in 2017. We've hosted several in-person trainings on how to build a campaign in your community, as well as some online workshops. And we realized that in our region, we've got 284 communities, villages, and cities. And those who live in those cities and towns and villages know better than we do on what is needed and how to activate the community. So in addition to those trainings, we've also hosted various uh, webinars on various topics over the years, from hosting a bike ride, how to do that, or different policies such as what is a complete streets policy and why is it important for your community. Uh, since COVID started in March, we started doing conference calls since having in-person meetings wasn't as realistic. And we've teamed up with Dave from Ride Illinois on this, and have been meeting to create a space to share updates on transportation statewide, regionally, as well as hearing what's happening locally from different advocates who join the call. It's been a great way to connect, and we hope to be continuing this far into the future. And then we also have Google Groups as another place to share information about webinars, events, conferences, action alerts, so people can take action statewide, regionally on transportation matters. So a little bit about the training that we offer, Bike Walk Every Town. So we try to introduce everyone to several different advocacy strategies that we think can really help communities advance walking and biking. So for example, having a complete streets policy where not only people driving, but walking and biking, uh, people walking and biking and people taking transit are also considered as new roads are built, or reconstructed. Having uh, active transportation plan or a bicycle pedestrian plan can really make a big difference in bringing money into your community. So advocating for something like that. So we go through various different strategies, and then we have a campaign action plan worksheet with 6 different steps. And so I'll briefly go through these steps, but in the training, we really dig into this and try to help individuals and groups put together a plan. So first, we recommend uh, figuring out what is your goal. What do you want to see in your community? Whether that is a complete streets policy or maybe it's a specific project filling in a trail gap. And then next, thinking about who's your target, who can actually help you reach your goal. So is that an elected official, maybe a mayor, a city council member, or is it a staff person? And then thinking about who is your base? How can you reach uh, your target, that decision maker? And then in addition to um, that, just thinking about how do you reach out to your community? How do you make sure that all corners of your community are reached and different that reflect all of the different um, races, genders, ages in your community and different interests? And how do you get their feedback and incorporate um, kind of their vision into your goal, and how do you work together? So how do you engage people then? Is it hosting meetings? Is it organizing some type of bike ride or walk to meet new people from your community? Maybe it's getting a petition started and um, activating people in that way. So there's lots of different ways to engage people. Um, and then the fourth step is assessing your own capacity. How much time can you devote to putting some type of campaign together? Who else can you get involved to be a part of your team? What kind of support do you need from others? And then fifth is, what are your tactics? So how are you going to communicate your ideas and your vision with the general public? And also how, like through that communication, how are you going to make sure you're getting input from others and make sure it's a community centered goal? So is it the newspaper? Is it having a social media page, using email, a press conference? And then again, thinking about engagement and reaching your target. So is it a petition? Is it um, meeting with an elected official, calling them, writing them a letter? So there's a variety of different ways um, to communicate and engage. And then finally, it's taking those 5 steps and putting together benchmarks, a timeline for yourself. So what are your short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals? So a few examples and a little bit of background on, we started a mini stipend program in 2018, and we found that it's been a really great way to help activate um, groups and provide them some funds for printing costs, for getting a banner, for starting a website, for just really getting things started. And we've been able to support 13 different communities, groups, and individuals in the suburbs through this mini stipend program so far. And 3 examples I wanted to share with you. One is in the west suburbs, 2 advocates started a group called Friends of the East Branch DuPage River Trail, and they've started a petition to get this trail built. They've gotten over 3,000 people signing the petition. They've reached out to tons of different groups and gone to lots of events and tried to, it's been a really great way to just educate people about the trail and show elected officials that there's community-wide interest in this. And they've met with elected officials from all levels of government and were able to last year get 3 agencies to commit to spending $160,000 on a trail feasibility study, which is occurring right now. And they also established themselves as a nonprofit. Another example is Oak Park, also in the west suburbs. They started a group, just a few volunteers, individuals. They started a Facebook group of maybe 10 people, and now today, around 2 years later, the group has almost 600 people. And one of their goals has been to implement their greenways and bike plan, and they've gotten involved in all sorts of different campaigns, whether it was getting a road diet implemented in their community and getting money, $20,000 dedicated to walking and biking in their budget. And most recently, they have started, they were advocating for slow streets in their communities. So that would be um, having some dedicated streets that prioritize walking and biking. And they started a pilot, the city ended up starting or village started a pilot project in August, and they've done a lot of marketing and outreach, um, and it follows the bike plan. So it's been a way to introduce uh, people to the concept of the bike plan and get feedback. And then finally, Brookfield in the southwest suburbs, they also have a goal to implement their active transportation plan, and they're particularly interested right now pushing for a side path that goes to their zoo, as well as some other bike lanes in their community. They've done a great job engaging elected officials. Money has been now dedicated to engineering studies to those particular projects, and they've established themselves as a nonprofit, and they're a really great model to look at for community engagement. They've done a really great job bringing people together on different social rides and connecting um, with people through the bicycle. And just in August they organized a socially distanced type of an event called Bike Brookfield Week, where people were encouraged to visit different areas of the village by bike, and they could win prizes. And um, so those three examples, wanted to share. There's a lot of really great examples out there, and what we found is there's just far-reaching interest, more than we were expecting, in the suburbs, in these areas that are so dominated by cars. There's people are looking for places to bike safely and comfortably for themselves, with their families. Um, and what we found so far is that really having that structured advocacy plan, so putting the time into building that plan, is really important for seeing things through. And then also having a team, having at least two people involved in a campaign in a given community can really help build momentum and keep things lasting and continuing. Uh, so unfortunately, the one thing we have learned is that, this is a volunteer model, uh, the Bike Walk Every Town campaign. So it doesn't necessarily work for everyone. Not everyone has time to put towards building these advocacy campaigns. And we know that, like, especially in higher need communities and communities of color, this model doesn't work. So we're continually trying to look for other ways that we can support communities where this model doesn't make sense. But we have found that it has worked um, well throughout the region, and for certain communities. And we it's been a place to, again, connect people and provide resources and support. And then finally, something else that just building this advocacy program has shown us is that, it's advocacy is about building relationships, and it's through all of these amazing advocates we've met along the way. They've helped us as we've been advocating statewide and regionally for different policies, and the $50 million of dedicated funding to walking and biking in the Capitol bill, which happened last year. That was in large part due to uh, um, advocates that we know throughout the region reaching out to their elected officials to advocate for that ask. So that is all I have. You can contact me if you're interested in getting involved, getting started on a campaign in your community, or you're curious if anything is going on in your community. My email is maggie@activetrans.org, and several of the resources or all of the resources we've created for Bike Walk Everytown are on our website, activetrans.org/bikewalkeverytown. So feel free to check that out. And thank you, and hope to hear from you. Thanks.
All right, good morning, everyone. This is a re-recording of one of our local bike advocacy sessions from the 2020 Illinois Bike Summit. And we have Wayne Mikes as our presenter today. And Wayne is going to talk about the Bike Palatine Club. But to introduce Wayne, Wayne is a cyclist, commuter, bike shop owner, cycling instructor, lifelong bike advocate, and current president of the Bike Palatine Club. Wayne's goal is for everyone to have a safe place to ride and enjoy the sport of cycling. So welcome, Wayne.
Thank you. My name is Wayne Mikes, and I am the president of Bike Palatine. What got me started in bike advocacy was Northwest Highway from Palatine to Barrington. Back in the 80s, I would ride down Northwest Highway, had a nice wide 10-foot shoulder. Cars zipping by at 60 miles an hour would not bother you with 10-foot width shoulder. At some point, IDOT decided to rebuild Northwest Highway between Palatine and Barrington. They put in gutters and curbs and took out the shoulder. I was very disappointed. I called IDOT. I wanted to know what happened. IDOT said that they contacted both Palatine and Barrington, both communities, and inquired about bicycle traffic. Both communities claimed there was no bicycle traffic on Northwest Highway, hence no bicycle accommodations on the road. I was very unhappy, but I learned a lesson about getting in front of road projects instead of being behind. So that brings us to Bike Palatine. Mayor Mullins in 2008 wanted to create some kind of bicycle task force. I was quite excited. Having a village champion is critical in moving forward with a lot of things. I was trying to get bike lanes on 2 roads previously and was totally unsuccessful with the village and the park district. I felt this was my foot in the door to have a champion of the mayor trying to do bicycle improvements and integrate cars and bikes better on the streets of Palatine. We did the normal thing. You meet together, you look at some maps and stuff. It's very cool, except we decided we needed a bike plan. So we have to ask the village for money for a bike plan. Ed Barsati won the grant to have the bike plan built. The park district and the village were both very excited because this was a way to apply for grants, to get replacements of bridges for the park district and do the improvements that we wanted on the bike plan. This was critical in our sense that we needed to champion both. The mayor was a champion, but we also had a village staff, Harry Spila, that was a champion, which helped see all the things that needed to be built and also to be able to apply for the grants that we're looking for. Some of the improvements that the Village of Palatine did from the bike plan are, they had an RTA grant that put in community bike racks in downtown Palatine. We also have 35 miles of bike lanes and bike routes in Palatine, wayfaring signs. We had 2 new important things that happened. So Gail Hartrip, our vice president, saw 2 possible abilities that we could make improvements with. One was the trail at Harper College. The other one is a connection to Deer Grove. The Harper College redid their campus and closed off a ring road, which allowed for people to go around it. Our thought was we would create a second path. There was only one on the east side. We wanted one on the west side that would create a continuous loop around it. The Village of Palatine and the Palatine Park District both paid for that, and that was built last year. Very nice trail, very popular, more popular than the old trail. The other one that was really interesting is that we wanted an additional connection into Deer Grove from Palatine. Right now, there's only one at Quinton and Dundee. There's a big entrance for Deer Grove East that's off of Dundee, but there's no traffic light. So Gail's concept was we need to use Smith Street, which is already a bike route, go to the traffic light and go through a substation into the Forest Preserve. Well, the interesting thing is that we contacted the Forest Preserve and they didn't want it. So we had to convince them that it was a good idea. So through years of discussions, they finally agreed that this would happen, but they would not pay for any of it. So the Village of Palatine put up money to do it. I previously talked to our Cook County Commissioner. They have funds for projects in each one of their districts, and he agreed to help fund that project, and that will be built next year.
What was, out of curiosity, Wayne, what was the hesitancy from the district?
The substation, there might be theft.
Hmm.
That was pretty stupid, but we have to live with. So Bike Palatine, some of the things that Bike Palatine has done, we've created a bike rack giveaway, which allowed for 3 different locations to have bike racks. We put 6 bike racks in those locations. We did have difficulty finding people that wanted a free bike rack. We paid for the rack and installation and still had difficulty.
And they're nice looking racks, right? I mean, you guys didn't just do, you had.
It wasn't crap, and we had a professional install them, so it was totally upfront, but it was difficult. So one of the events that we were doing was Cycle Fest. So we tried to gear this towards a casual cyclist. We did not want 50 or 100-mile bike rides. This was totally take people out of their comfort zone, put them on the street, help them understand how to deal with traffic, cross streets, those kind of things, and connect to different places. The thought there was to take them out of the comfort zone and maybe let them ride further and go to different places on their bike. It's been very successful. We do use 3 different communities bike paths. We use Palatine, Schaumburg, Rolling Meadows. And every year, people come back and go, I never knew this was here. And I've got to say that a couple of the trails are very recluse, but I must say that we are not informing the public about what we've done, what we have, and what we're using. I think we need to do a better job of informing the public about the potential of what we're doing. Taking Cycle Fest to a lower level, we do a casual ride on Tuesdays and Thursdays, kind of the same concept, teach people how to ride on the street and do something in a 5 to 7 mile bike ride kind of thing. We've also piggybacked with this Rotary Club and the fire department. Fire department did a chili cook-off. We did a chili ride with that. And the Rotary did this Oktoberfest, and we did a bike ride with them. Our cool one was always the full moon ride. It's an end of the year party. We do food and whatnot. And it's really cool at 8 o'clock at night, riding down the bike path, and the full moon is just coming up over you, which is really kind of neat. The 2 things that I'm most proud of is Bike to School and a community ride. Bike to School started with 3 schools and a few hundred kids riding. We are now doing 11 schools last year and 1,300 kids riding. The club participates with giving out stickers, helmets, locks, and bells. And we have 2 principals that are quite adamant about becoming first. So there's a lot of movement in that direction that they're trying to really encourage their kids, which is really cool because now we have an internal function from the principal trying to encourage kids that you need to ride your bike to school this day. So very cool.
And you guys had, I remember seeing articles and maybe with social media posts, I mean, hundreds of kids in Palatine. 1,300,
that's a lot. I mean, we have one school that does 500 kids that ride to school one day. So, yeah, it's cool. I created a community bike ride last year that I was very proud of. So I wanted to do something more than ride with the mayor. And what I did is I invited the police chief, the fire chief, the whole village council and the mayor, the school district, both the boards and the superintendents of the elementary school and high school, the park district board, and then social club organizations like the Rotary Club and the JCs. We had 80 people that came on the ride. It was very successful. There was only like a 7-mile bike ride. But I think the purpose that I had in mind was just taking these community leaders and trying to use them as influencing what we can do in the future and also see what we've already done. We're going to do it again next year. I have a lot of comments from people that did go on the ride that were very happy to come again next year. I have 2 crazy ideas that I'd like to discuss with you. So
crazy.
One is whenever I ride my bike or even drive my car and I see like, oh God, this would be a great connection for a bike path. This road could really use a bike lane. If they had a turn lane here, it would make it so much easier for bikes and cars in this section of the road. Everybody can take those ideas, call that community, and ask them to make an improvement with that road, and then it would be for bikes and cars both, but it would make it safer for everybody. But the concept is that without making that contact, they will not make that improvement. And if that village or community says, oh no, that's not our road, it's the county or the state, call the county, call the state, get a phone number, get a name, talk to those people, ask them to make this connection, and follow up with them and sometime in the future. That would always be a wonderful thing, and it would make us everything a lot easier for us. I want everyone to think about one other thing. Think about the impact of bikes with the pandemic. The shortages, the new riders, the crowded trails, the kids in the afternoon riding all over the place. We have an immense amount of inexperienced people on bikes. I have a challenge for everyone. How do we keep these people riding? How do we connect with these people? How do we need to develop new methods and new ways to be able to connect with these people and influence them to help us create better and more improvements for roads and streets. And I'm hoping that other people can come up with ideas. They might be able to share those with us.
It seems like a opportunity of a generation, right? That we
Totally
pass. And I've had that conversation with lots of people, and I don't, there's no silver bullet, right?
No, there isn't. But I think that media, we need to have better influence with media and be able to manipulate that to a level that it creates a bigger audience. The more people we can incorporate into this, the better we're going to be.
Yeah, especially if we get some young people, right? I mean,
young people, old people, all kinds of
at some point, right?
Well, yeah, and that, yes, you're right. The more that we can, and that was one of the things with this bike to school thing, is we can create young riders that like to commute, that use their bikes, and remember that even as they become an adult, and go, oh, I had so much fun riding to school. Wow, we've got a bike rider for life. And we need,
you got to kind of catch them before they get their driver's license, right? I mean, that's the biggest window of opportunity. Some might come back to it, but
well, you're right. If we can catch them in the early ages, I think if you think about the 10 to 15-year-olds, it's that freedom part that I think that a lot of us remember when we were kids, that they're not really grasping at this point. The concept that they take their cell phone, get on their bike, I'm going to go play with my friends. It's that transportation part that they get and that freedom that they get automatically. And I don't think that adults aren't catching up on that, but the kids need to kind of click with that concept that this is a freedom part that they get out of the bike. They can get away and get out of the house and go see their friends on their own without assistance from their parents.
Right. Yeah. Oh, well said. Well, you guys are doing quite a bit. I know we've chatted many times over the years, partnered on some classes, and Bike Palatine's, they're pushing the needle. You guys are definitely doing some progressive things. You guys have fun events, like you've done scavenger hunts and stuff like that. I mean, it's cool to see what you guys are doing. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time to re-record this session. So we're
not a problem.
Post this to a shareable drive, and we'll get it out to everybody.
Okay.
All right, any parting thoughts, Wayne?
No, I just hope that people will kind of embrace themselves on how we can better capture the people that are actually riding their bikes today and use their abilities to make our community better.
Well said.
All right.
Thanks very much, Wayne.
All right. Thank you.
So let's see if this goes up again. Otherwise, we'll have to, you should be back up now, Jeff.
All right. The League of American Bicyclists have the 6 E's, and as for us as a small organization trying to figure out what do we work on, these have been huge for giving us an agenda, setting us priorities. And you can see in the yellow highlights are some of the things that we've done in the specifically in these areas. We have even this coming next week, we have a Light the Night event on campus where we'll put 1,000 sets of bike lights on students' bikes. And that's 1,000 points of contact with bicyclists. It's a great time of education, a connection, a chance to listen to what's going on. I will make a comment that the last one, equity, it's very important to all of us, but it's usually not the urgent thing. And so it can easily fall off. And we have been working and growing in this area. We're probably way behind everybody up in the Chicago area, but it's important to us, and we're making good steps in that area, seeking to make sure that everybody, all the cyclists in our community are served and included and have a a place to be. So these are really important. All right, next slide. This is I think, a truth that a lot of us know, that Woody Allen made famous, that 80 to 90% of life is showing up, but it really makes a difference. I've heard a couple of the other presenters today talk about it, but putting on our shirts and name tags, giving out our business cards, going to the public input meetings, the council places, saying, yes, we'll be a part of the 4th of July parade again, and make sure we get kids and families out there. Being out in the public where people can see us and tell us their concerns with their streets. We always have a map there. We always find out what they're talking about, circle it, we'll ride back over there. Just being out there as much, and 2020 has been terrible because we haven't been able to, but this has been a big part of our success, is just being out there. Sometimes it involves the courtrooms and hospital rooms, but it means being out there where cycling issues are important, being talked about, and being a part of that conversation, and then figuring out our action steps after that. All right, next slide. I think this is going to talk about stuff and our tangibles. To do good work, you need stuff. Along our journey in 15 years, we now have a youth bicycle fleet that we take in a trailer and go to the schools and partner with the Safe Routes to School programs to do bike rodeos on the playgrounds and in our parks. We are the creators of our local bicycle map. It takes a lot of time and energy, but that is our business card. That's our educational piece. That is our welcome wagon. The first thing when we greet people in the farmers market that are new to town, we show them a map. It's got all the links to all the other organizations, all the information they need. We have bike racks, and I can't tell you how many times we loan those things out, whether it's for a big university event where they expect a lot of people to show up, including on bikes, whether it's for the bike race team, for one of their events, a public meeting where we want to have a lot of bikes turn out, we'll bring the bike racks out there and create a corral. So this is all the stuff that's really tangible. I convinced my wife that I needed a Toyota Tacoma for my bicycle advocacy work. As much as we want to do with bikes, you got to haul a lot of that stuff around and do that with my truck. All right, a couple more thoughts here along the way. I just want to also pick up on what Parker and I heard in what Maggie was saying as well, is that we're excited about bikes, but we really are committed to our community. And so when we show up, when we engage community at events, our elected officials, we aren't there as activists demanding something about bikes, but as people in our communities. We're neighbors, we drive cars, most of us, we have kids, and we think that bikes are often a part of good solutions in our community. So we get to listen, pitch in, help out, help accomplish their agendas, and we just have a really good relationship with our community partners. Okay, next slide.
That was actually, oh no, Sarah, there are more slides, but I do want to warn you, you only have a couple more minutes.
Perfect, perfect. I think there's just 2 more slides.
3.
All right. This kind of goes along with what the campaign action plan that Maggie was talking about. But if you don't know Peter Drucker's 5 questions, it really helps us as an advocacy organization focus on what we do, particularly that second question, who is your customer? When we first created our first bike map, we were our customer. And then we realized, no, actually it's the people interested in cycling that have concerns. It's the first-time bicycle commuters who need this map. How do we design it for them? At other times in other projects, our customer is a person who's going to make the decision about giving a lot of money. And what do they need? What is the customer value? Sometimes it's data, hard numbers. And so we go out and conduct a bike census and we get the numbers for them. So these things really help nonprofits. Look them up, spend some time with them. All right, and last slide here. One thing I think that really helped us in the long run is just to say yes to the opportunities that come along. When the TV station says we want to interview somebody about what's going on, we say yes, and we get in front of a camera. When they say, can you do something at our school, during a school day on a Tuesday, we say yes, and then we try to figure out how that work. When somebody gave us a trailer We were like, absolutely wonderful. So these things have helped us move ahead as things come along. Host a bike summit? Absolutely. We figure out what it means later, and we just leverage all these things to advance our work. All right, my last slide is just my contact information. Glad to help anybody get their local bicycle advocacy groups going in their downstate communities. Be glad to answer any questions about some of the stuff I talked about.
Thank you guys all so much for joining us. This should be recorded and available for everyone to view for 30 days. So if we do end up with getting questions from people as they're watching the recording, we will of course forward them on to you and get that. So thank you again for your patience, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the summit.